thank y'all for coming and joining me today. I'm going to be showing you can see in the description, I'm going to be showing you how to make a royal icing flower today. And if you've been following me for more than a few hours, you know that I'm obsessed with flowers. Any kind of flower, cookie flowers, what have you. Sorry about that, y'all. That was my oven going off. But anyway, we're going to make a royal icing flower like the ones that are in the Mother's Day bouquets that I did recently, and like the ones that we're going to be doing in our class coming up on June 4th. Hey, Kaylin. So, I've got a fresh batch of royal icing in my mixer here. And this just finished mixing up in the mixer a second ago. It's really important to use the fresh royal icing for making flowers. You don't want to let it sit out on the counter if you're going to make flowers with it. If you're just going to be flooding, go ahead, make your royal icing a day, 2 days, 3 days in advance, because it can sit out on the counter for up to 3 days at room temperature. But if you are going to be making flowers with it, you want to go ahead and use it right after you make it. It's going to be nice and light and fluffy, just like this. You can see it kind of looks like really stiff, heavy cream. And I don't add vanilla to mine because I like a nice white color. If you add that brown vanilla, it kind of dulls your colors sometimes. And if you're wanting to do some muted tones, that's totally fine. But I'm going to start with a big, heavy dollop of this royal icing that I've just made. And if you want to use my royal icing recipe, you can go over to sarahgracecookieco.com, and there's a little link. Go to cookies, and there's a little link underneath that says my recipe, and it'll give you my cookie recipe and my royal icing recipe too. So we're going to start by making the icing for the petals. I think I'm going to do like a burgundy, pinkish color today, like a deep purple maybe, something like that. I'm just going to kind of put some icing in here and see where it takes me. That's what I do most of the time. I have like a general idea of where it's going, but I just kind of add and take away until it looks like I want it to. I'm going to tilt you down just a little bit so that you can see what's happening in this bowl. Scoot you up just a little. Okay. So now, I've put just a little bit of pink gel food coloring. This is Sunny Side Up Bakery, and some violet from AmeriColor. I'm going to stir those together and see what we get. In order to do the burgundy, I may have to have a little bit of brown or red. I don't know, I kind of like this. It's like a lilac type color. And when you're making flowers, it's not really like it is when you're making icing to flood a cookie and you have to mix it all the way in. If you're making flowers and you have some streaks like this, hey Carly, when you have streaks like this, that's going to make it look even prettier when you're making your flowers, because it's going to look like variegated petals and it's going to give it like some highlight and depth. So I think I am going to go with this purple color. I really like that. Grab a towel because I'm getting icing all over me. So we're going to need a piping bag and a flower tip. So I like to use these tipless piping bags. Let's see. And this is an automatic bag sealer. It just makes it a lot easier if you're going to be sealing a lot of bags at a time, which I usually am. You can get this on Amazon for like $20. It's super handy. And I am finding my petal tip. I have 2 little boys who think that they get to play with piping tips. And we've been trying to tell them otherwise. But they just don't believe us. So they keep trying to get into my piping tips. This one was over here from where it had been in the dishwasher, sorry. Okay, so this is a large piping tip. Hey Cindy. This one's pretty big, and it's got this curve where it's going to make a really, really pretty petal. This is my favorite kind to use, the large ones with a pretty petal curve. And I'm not sure exactly what size this is. This is a 1/16 Sunny Side Up Bakery. And these can be found at Hobby Lobby. So I'm finding the seam on my bag where it's joined together and heat sealed. Here's my seam. And I'm going to put the thin side next to my seam. And you can plop this icing into your hand after you turn the bag out like this, but I'm not that talented. Y'all thought I was being funny the other day when I said that I was being bougie with this glass, but it's actually the perfect size for these new piping bags that I've got. So I've been using it a lot. Not to be bougie, just because it's a great size and it works great for this task. So I'm gonna add my purple. That's not completely mixed in. It still just has a few stripes of that darker purple and that pink and a little bit of white. And I always mix lightest to darkest so that I don't have to do dishes. Unless I'm doing greens. You'll see in just a minute. Greens are kind of an exception to that rule. So I'm going to pull this up. And you don't really have to tie this bag. You can if you want to, if it makes you feel good, but it's not going anywhere. This icing's stiff enough. It's not been watered down at all. It's going to stay put. So now we're going to get a little bit more icing in our bowl. Please don't look in my silverware drawer. If y'all just saw it, just like pretend it never happened. Because it is not neat at all. I've got some black gel food coloring here and some yellow gel food coloring. Now, you can buy green gel food coloring, and it will not hurt to use green gel food coloring. Hey, AC, if you want to use green, you use green. But I like using black and yellow together. It makes a really pretty natural looking green. I'm going to have to put a little water in this one because it's kind of dry out on me. There we go. If your gel food colorings are getting toward the bottom, add a little water to them, shake it up. And it'll make them go just a little bit further. I need to restock on black. But take just a little bit of black. You'll have to use a little more if you water it down like I did to make it go further. And a lot of yellow. This is the amount of yellow I'm using. And this is very concentrated yellow. So it's going to make a really pretty green. And it'll be like a forest hunter green. And don't stress about this purple that's in the bowl already. That's not going to hurt anything. A lot of people actually put red into their green to give it more of a natural look, a little bit more depth. And just like with the petals, don't stress if it's not mixed in all the way. That's just going to give it more of a variegated tone. And it'll make it look even more natural and pretty. This is the texture I've got right now. I would like it to be just a little bit thinner. Hey, Ashley. I want mine to be just a touch thinner. Not much. Just enough to kind of pop it easily. So I'm going to add like a splash of water. Just a very, very tiny bit. We do not want this to be runny at all. But if it's just a little bit thinner, sometimes those circular leaves, those round leaves that I like to make, will come out a little bit smoother. Okay. And now we've got just a little bit smoother consistency. This looks almost like a toothpaste consistency. That's the kind I use to write on cookies with too. So I'm taking another tipless piping bag. This does not require a piping tip. For these are going to be the little round petals that go all around the edges of those flowers. So all we're going to do is snip the tip of that piping bag off. Okay. Bag that up. I wish there were a neater way to do this, but there just isn't. This kind of is how it is. Okay, and for the lighter green, I like to do leaves in a lighter green. That way I have a little bit of contrast, a dark green and a light green. So I'm just going to take a big dollop of white royal icing, pop it into my bowl where I've just mixed my darker green. This is my one exception to the lightest to darkest color mixing rule. Cover my icing with a towel so it doesn't get dried out on me. But you just mix this white icing, hey Carly, right into your dark green that you've already made, and it's going to create a light green. But any other time you're mixing icing, go lightest to darkest and you won't have to clean your bowl out. Unless you're making a green like this or some other situation where you're needing just a shade lighter than what you just did. It'll save you some color mixing and a little bit of time. And you really kind of have to scrape down that bowl. To get that nice light green color. And this is going to look almost white, but think about like those frosty looking, I think about the ones they have at Hobby Lobby. They're so pretty. They're like almost a frosty looking color, and they're usually over there with the hydrangeas. If anyone else has the layout of Hobby Lobby memorized, just like give me a heart on the video or something so I don't feel like the only Hobby Lobby obsessed person here. You know, at Hobby Lobby. On aisle 3. I don't know if it's actually aisle 3, but it's sad that I know the layout of Hobby Lobby that well. Anyway, they're really pretty. The leaves are really... Where did we get to on this? How did I get to this conversation? Leaves. That's right. Okay. So, bagging this up. Same deal. And it doesn't need a piping tip either. You can just snip that in a little V shape and you'll be ready to pop some leaves. So I'm going to see if I can kind of lower my phone down a little bit without totally sending y'all spinning. Okay. Sorry, it feels like you're on the roller coaster right now. Whoa! Can y'all see okay here? All right, there we go. That'll work. Sorry if it's shaky. Now, I'm going to show you how to pop the actual flower. So we're going to start, hey Carrie. We're going to start with the leaves, the dark green that kind of gives some accent. Cut across the seam just like you always do with your piping bag. And I like a pretty big cut on this. It's not teeny tiny like I do with piping, but it's also not huge. So I'd say that's like maybe 1/4 of an inch. I have to consult Kane about measurements because I'm terrible with them. But I'm just piping and pulling back. And get real close here. So you're just going to pipe a circle, hold it, and pull. Hold it and pull. Hold it and pull. And that creates this pretty little leaf pattern here. And you can get creative with the types of leaves that you do. I like to do a few on that side, a few on this side, and then for a few I like to do a leaf and then bring a stem down. And then a leaf and bring it into that stem. So that it just looks like a different kind of leaf and it looks like you have some greenery in this flower. Even though it's one cookie, it kind of looks like you've got a whole bouquet. And if you want to buy this cookie cutter, I bought mine from Sweet Silhouettes. You can find that on Instagram, or I think she has a website now too. I'm not sure. But that's my first step. Got my darker leaves set in place, and we're going to go back with the lighter leaves later, but we are going to do our rows before we do those lighter leaves. I'm going to find my little turntable. Here we go. You can buy these cookie turntables on Amazon. This one was like $5, I think. Hey, Dara. This one was like $5, and I printed out this logo for Sarah Grace Cookie Company and laminated it and stuck it on top so it would be a little cuter, but it's just a plain, clear turntable. So, after you've got your base of your pretty greenery on there, you'll take your piping bag with your pretty purple color, and you'll start with a circle. Anyone who's made a rose before, like on a cake or anything like that, you're familiar with this whole technique. And then you'll go across and down, and you kind of plant it down and pull it off of the piping tip on the cookie. You'll turn, and you're making like a triangle with these little passes that you're doing here, and it's going to make the center of the rose. Just like this. I like to overlap them a little bit. You can see here, here, and here they kind of overlap, and it makes a little triangle shape. Now, we'll keep pointing our piping bag inward as we go across these joints. You're angling inward with your hand as you turn, and I'm just going straight across where the joints are that I made earlier, where the other pieces of icing cross. Now, as you work, you're going to slowly start to turn your piping bag out. So as you turn, after those first couple of passes, you're going to be straight up rather than angled in. And that's going to make your petals start to fan out a little bit like a real flower. Then you're going to take your piping bag, and when you set it down on the cookie this time, it's going to be at an outward angle. So this is what my hand looks like, if you can't see. My hand is tilted this way so that my wrist is facing up toward the sky. And I put my piping bag down at this angle, and I kind of give it a little shake as I turn it, and I make that petal shape. And it looks like that. And then I'm going to keep turning, and I come with my piping bag behind that first petal just a little bit so that it'll give you that look of petals overlapping on a real rose. And you just keep going with that piping bag angled outward. If I'm breathing heavy, I'm sorry. It's because I'm concentrating. And then just keep doing a few more petals just like that. They don't have to be precise or even, but I'm a Southern girl. I like things to be big, so I do big petals on a big flower with a big piping tip. And that is how your rose looks. I think this petal is just a bit too big for me. I wish that I had stopped and done two separate petals. If you ever have that happen, grab you a handy dandy toothpick. We love toothpicks in cookie decorating. And just pop it down in the middle. Boom, you've got two petals. I think it's still just a little bit big for me over here. I'm going to do a few swipes. Now I've got two petals. Hey, Amanda. Alright, so now for our lighter leaves that are going to add just a little bit more dimension, and like I told you, make this look like a little tiny bouquet in your hand. So I've got it cut in that shape that I showed you, that little V shape, and I'm going to find on my Sweet Silhouettes cutter, there are two little pointy pieces right here. I'm going to find those, set my piping tip on top of them, and I'm going to move it back and forth as I squeeze pretty gently, and it's going to make that little leaf shape. Sorry, kind of shaking. There we go. And that's got two pretty leaves on there. Just find any point on your flower that has those triangle shapes and go ahead and make those leaves. And sometimes I'll do one over the top of some darker green that I've already done. And the harder you squeeze, the wider your leaf's gonna be. Let's see. I'm gonna show you that on this spoon. It's kind of nasty looking, but If you squeeze just a little tiny bit and pull up, you have a small leaf, like this one. If you squeeze really hard and jiggle and pull up, then you have a nice big wide leaf. So it just depends on what size you want to do. I think this looks good. It's got a little bit of everything. I think my Aunt Jackie would like this one. She loves purple. And that's our flower. If you'd like to learn more about how to make these flowers, shameless plug time, I am hosting a cookie decorating class at Watson House Design and Landscape on June 4th. We're going to have 10 people is the limit for how many we can have, and we'll have plenty of space to social distance there. We'll skip a seat or skip however many seats they need us to skip. But anyway, you won't have to make any of the icing or do any of the cleanup. It'll all be sitting right there for you, and you can try all this cool, fun stuff out for yourself without having to get any of your dishes dirty at your house. So if you want to check that out, look at my previous post, send me a message, and I'll be glad to help you get signed up for that. But anyway, thank y'all so much for joining me today, and thank you for watching. Y'all have a great day. Bye.